What's going on, guys? Unknown Player here, and today we've got a lot of really cool stuff to talk about regarding, of course, Age of Triumph. So Bungie held their third and final reveal stream, giving us a look at new armor sets, some crazy new ornaments, some weapon balancing, and most importantly, the answer to how elemental primaries are actually returning. So as usual, I've gone through the entire stream, and I'll be summarizing everything noteworthy for you guys. So this is basically a showcase of all the new armor sets and some of the ornaments. So firstly, looking at the Vault of Glass sets, this of course is a new ornament that you can apply to the normal set to make it look different. Now these ornaments can be applied from anywhere in the game, so you can get an ornament from the Caustic End raid and it will work on the Vault of Glass set. It's not specific, but this is the Vault of Glass actual concept art of what they were kind of working initially towards. And this obviously didn't make it into the final game, there were some slight tweaks, but this looks so cool. I really love how the Titan's got an actual Vex belly, like the little crit spot that you can shoot. Unfortunately, that isn't on the final Titan. That is a really cool idea. Also, the Hunter in this concept does have a robotic arm as well as the leg. So looking at the actual real set, we can see more of what they're going towards. So of course, you can see the Hunter with a really cool looking cloak and more glowy stuff all over him, the Vex robotic leg. The Warlocks has robotic feet as well, so it looks a bit like a bird. It's very strange. And also the Titan, of course, has that Wi-Fi signal on his back. So you can see the weapon being held by the actual player is the normal Fatebringer, and the weapon being seen in the Hunter's hand is actually a different looking one, the kind of gold and white one, which I've seen for a long time and questioned what it would actually be. So as it turns out, this is the answer to elemental primaries. So essentially all of the raid weapons from all 4 of the raids, of course, are now going to drop at maximum light level, but none of them have elements. They're all pretty much normal, and this Fatebringer you can see in this guy's hands is a non-elemental version. This has no arc burn. However, the elemental primaries come in as exotic, so this Fatebringer, you can see the gold and white one, that's actually an exotic version of the Fatebringer with arc burn, so it's exactly the same with Outlaw and Firefly. But all of the gold weapons, or essentially the raid weapons that look slightly different with skins, those aren't ornaments, those are actually exotics, and they do have elemental burns. So that's going to be a sacrifice. If you want to use an elemental primary, you have to sacrifice an exotic slot, which I assume most people are fine with. I think it's a pretty fair compromise. It's better than nerfing them or taking away the burns. Obviously, like I've been saying this whole time, they were going to do some kind of compromise and nerf them in some way to make them not just straight up legendary primary elemental weapons. So this is the compromise, exotic weapons. Let me know your thoughts down below. But I personally am really happy with their decision. Bungie is basically looking at them as like adept versions of the weapons that you'll of course earn within the challenge modes of the raid. So you have to do really hard activities to actually earn the elemental exotic primaries. For any of these raid weapons you did want to use in Crucible, you can use the normal legendary version without a burn and not have to lose that exotic slot. So there's a closer shot of the Mythic class with its Corona Shot ornament, making it all chromed out, looking very shiny, and also it hasn't been changed at all, it hasn't been nerfed, so it's going to be exactly the same as it is right now, which is kind of like an SMG. It's very melty up close, but awful at long range, so should be interesting to see how it performs in Crucible. And of course, there is the Vision of Confluence Scout Rifle that does solo damage, and of course, this again is the exotic version that is silver and gold. So moving on next to Caustic End, we can see some of those amazing looking ornaments we saw before in the trailer, and these are the concept arts that are kind of going off. Again, very outlandish, just really over the top. Now, the glowing horns on this armor set are really unique. They've kind of added a new feature into the game, where when you actually take damage with this armor set, the little horns kind of disappear and like shrivel away into debris as you take damage, and they kind of grow back as you kind of regenerate your health. It makes you wonder what kind of things they've got in Destiny 2. Like, this is the kind of things we're seeing towards the end of Destiny 1. What kind of crazy little weird things they're going to have in Destiny 2 like this. So really cool and unique feature, and definitely one of my new favorite armor sets. So moving on to one of the next very important topic that they address is actually the Black Hammer, which of course was a very kind of complicated issue. So as it turns out, there's not going to be a new Year 3 version of Black Hammer. It just doesn't exist. It's not going to drop in the actual raid. And this is, of course, because the exotic Black Spindle exists and makes it basically pointless. It does make perfect sense because the Black Hammer, the original one, that can shoot infinitely and never use any ammo as long as you're hitting crits. So it's understandable. If they brought it back and nerfed it to be the same as the Spindle and use ammo, then nobody would use the Spindle because obviously it's exotic. So it's a good trade-off, and that is how it's going to work. Just basically the Spindle if you want that sniper rifle. So this is the normal Word of Crota, not the one that's exotic, but there is an exotic Word of Crota that does exist with, of course, a Void Burn. There's the Necrochasm with its blue glowing ornament, and they've also buffed it to make sure the explosion happens on every single kill, not just headshots, so it should be a bit more lethal. And they've also buffed auto rifles as a whole to make them more powerful. They've increased the range slightly to hopefully make them where they want to be, so hopefully they're close to the other primary weapons, but we'll get more into the Sandbox Changes and the other balances later in the video. So next up we have the King's full raid set with this ornament. Now this Titan's got some really cool looking gears, holding the Touch of Malice ornament of course, that does slightly change it, make it a bit more Oryx-like. Also with this armor set, if you take damage, the glowing cracks kind of go away and then come back, so a bit similar to the Crota gear. Now, while looking at the hand cannon, they did also announce they are nerfing hand cannons slightly by 3 meters in terms of range, and they felt like hand cannons were slightly too dominant. Again, this is a very subtle change. I don't think it's really going to make a massive deal, but who knows? That is what they're doing with hand cannons right now. And then on the topic of King's Fall, all 4 of the raids now have elemental primaries. So that's right, King's Fall now has elemental primaries with exotic versions, and so does Wrath of the Machine, which is really, really awesome. We saw the auto rifle in the trailer that did look like it did arc damage, and that's because it's actually an exotic version. So the red King's Fall weapons, those are elemental primaries now. So next up, we can see the Wrath of the Machine raid and its new ornaments, and again, the concept art of what they're working towards. You can see the ornaments with glowing red particles everywhere, and some of those exotic primaries are now with elemental burns again. These are glossy red now, and I think these are going to be some of the best weapons in the game. These Wrath of the Machine weapons are seriously really good as it stands, so with burns, they're going to be absolutely amazing. I think it gives a real incentive to actually play all 4 of the raids. I don't think many people are looking forward to playing Wrath of the Machine all that much, but now with elemental burns, they're going to be probably the most sought after weapons. I'm not too sure about King's Fall, because those are still pretty awful weapons, so with burns, I'm still not really a fan of them, but Wrath of the Machine for sure are going to be really, really good guns with burns now. There is also, of course, the Age of Triumph armor set, which does look definitely cool, but after seeing the raid gear with all those crazy ornaments, it's kind of hard to follow them. This is definitely a more normal looking set with, of course, Chroma, and the Chroma class items can be earned from the Speaker quest. So next up, we can see some of the ornaments that are being added to existing exotic weapons. We can see the Lord of Wolves one, again, CFified. There's Dragon's Breath with the Tiger Shark. There's Cerus Regime with the black and yellow one. And also the Cerus is the only one to have a second ornament. It's going to have 2, and the other one, as you can see here, makes it red and white. So basically like an inverted version of the original Cerus Regime in year 1. And then quickly going over the sandbox changes that are going to be in this patch called 2.6.0. So all the changes they mentioned a few weeks back, those are still happening. They fixed the regen issues for health that were broken with like Ward of Dawn, except for things like Red Death, of course, like I mentioned. Those are going to give you instant health regen instead of the shield. And apparently the Red Death is just as good, if not better, in terms of healing you now. So hopefully it's good and not been nerfed into the ground like it seems like it might be. Now next up we can see the No Land Beyond with its ornament as well. It's like a green digital camo. And they've now added flinch, of course, to the No Land, so it's going to be in line with other snipers. They've also changed scories, of course, now activates only when you get killed every minute. And also sidearms, they've changed those. So those are only going to spawn with 1 magazine now and don't stack on death, which I think is fair. The whole stacking on death thing was definitely a major bug, but they're supposed to have some ammo. I think 1 is a decent amount, but of course now you can use it as a backup weapon to finish someone off instead of a primary, so I think it's a fair compromise. And the final change is that now when you pick up special, it does actually get instantly reloaded into your weapon, which is nice, so you don't have to go and reload your gun or forget that it's not loaded every time you pick up a special crate. So that is a full summary of all the highlights in that third and final stream. Of course, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. What do you think about exotic elemental primaries? Of course, if you did enjoy this video, a like rating would be much appreciated. When this patch goes live, there'll be a lot of stuff to talk about, so stay tuned right here. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next one.